Hey teachers, happy Monday, or at least Monday is when I'm recording and releasing this. And I have to tell you that it took me a minute to get to this point, but I kind of love Mondays. I feel like it's a great way to start the week. You can set it up however you want it to be, right? Your mood, your attitude, your desire to accomplish your goals. It's like a fresh start every week, and Mondays are great for that. Plus, I think because we've had the weekend to kind of relax and rejuvenate for most of us, Mondays are a great time for learning. I always put, when I was the principal, I kind of scheduled Mondays to be our heavy days. So we did our big meetings on Mondays. We did faculty meetings or after school meetings on Mondays, because then we were fresh or fresher than say like a Thursday afternoon, and we were a little more attentive. So I like that I released the Teachers That Sparkle weekly YouTube to you every Monday. Hopefully you've been gaining a little bit of information each week, and that's my main goal, is just to provide you with free little tidbits that can help you become your very best in the classroom and what you do to impact students. So let's get started with this week. We are on week number 5 already, and this week I want to talk about one of my top 10 things about being the best teacher that you possibly can be. I generated this list this summer as I was working with my daughter, so she had a little bit of input as we were preparing for our newest program, From Rookie to Rockstar, for those teachers that are still in their rookie years, 0 to 2 years of experience, and maybe need that little extra support that schools and districts just don't give you because they just assume that you were prepared and able to do this when you hit the classroom. And sometimes that's not always the case. So having said that, I know that those kind of programs are very much needed. And so when we were preparing for getting ready to launch that program, we sat down and we really thought about the 10 most important things that we need to think about that have been contributors to our success as teachers and school employees. And we're going to talk about these over the next 10 weeks. And today we are ready for thing number 1. So one of the most important things, and I say this so many times, and this is really truly about your personal life and your professional life, but it's about planning. There's this quote that says, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I believe that that's true. I'm going to tell you why. And this is a very brief story, but it's important. So I want you to really listen up. My very first year, I got to Houston. I was teaching 4th grade math and science, and I was in a portable building. Okay. All of this is very relevant. So pay close attention. I was in a pod with my 2 partners. We were a 3-way split. I was math and science. Then we had someone who did writing only, because in Texas, 4th graders at the time were tested on writing. And then our other partner did the reading portion of everything. So I had the math test that I was responsible for. One of my partners had the reading test she was responsible for, and one partner had the writing language arts test. And our students would rotate between the 3 of us out in the pod, and we were 3 of 6 on the team. The other 3 were inside the building. As again, the same setup: a writing language arts teacher, a reading teacher, and then a math science teacher. I was the newbie. Okay. And this is important. I was the newbie. I was outside in the portables with 2 very veteran teachers, but they didn't teach math and science. Inside, there were 2 second-year teachers on the team and 1 veteran teacher. They had taught the same content the year prior, and they were going into their second year. Now, I always say that my second year was amazing compared to my first year. And I say that because being in the portable, you're a little more isolated. Being new, you have not already built those relationships. I came from another state, so it wasn't like I had a lot of connections already in the Houston area. And teaching was new for me. Although I had been a student teacher and I'd gone through a great teaching program and had great professors, it wasn't the real world, just like I talk about in Rookie to Rockstar. And I was given this. I was hired And originally I was hired as a fifth grade reading teacher, which would have been right up my alley because reading and writing is what I'm all about. However, I have a math minor. I can do math. So I get to Houston. I get told at the last minute, I'm going to be fourth grade math and science. Okay, not a problem. So I'm fourth grade math and science. I walk in and they tell me, oh, by the way, we have this little test. Don't worry about it. It's not really a big deal. Now, sidebar, if you know anything about Texas, that's a lie. And I learned that real quick. But okay, I didn't know anything at the time, so I thought they were being truthful with me. And you're going to teach math and science. We really don't have a great planning system, how we collaborate. You do have a mentor, which, by the way, was my reading partner, and she can help you out, but here are your textbooks. And remember, this was 1995, and everything was done with textbooks. That was just kind of the way it was. These were old, ratty textbooks, and this teacher's editions. And this textbook was about to go out of adoption. But my true self, I didn't know anything different. I went to my mentor. She's like, yeah, I can help you with things like management and all of that, but I can't help you with math and science. I don't teach math and science. And I'm thinking, okay, great. So I go to my counterpart who's in the building. And I don't say this about too many people, but she wasn't very collaborative. And felt like I got no help from her. So here I was to my own device. And here's what I knew to do: follow the textbook. And because it was already written out for me, it told me what to say, it told me what to do. Okay, I don't have to write a lesson plan. We had these cute lesson plan books, and they had these big squares where you could just put kind of your notes of what you were going to do. And I'm a big writer, so my notes took up all the space, not many notes there. So basically I started to learn just right. Today we're working on division. And that's how I planned. Now, let me tell you, there's one more piece to this that's super important. My class was designed for a very specific teacher who resigned at the last minute. Hence, the change from fifth grade reading down to fourth grade math and science. And this teacher wanted to do an experiment that was approved by the principal that hired me. However, that principal was promoted to central office, and I had a new principal. You can see how all of these things were coming, right? You can just see how I'm setting up this story, because what I'm going to tell you is the end result was it was not a good year. And I didn't know what I didn't know, so I have to give myself that grace. But part of what I didn't realize is that even though that script was there for me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't sufficient to be able to do what I needed to do with the students. And even though I had these textbooks in front of kids and this teacher's edition in front of me, the learning was not exciting. They were not engaged. They were not listening. And I mentioned that this class was designed to be very specific to this very specific teacher who wanted to do this very specific experiment. Yeah. It was designed to be made up of all of the second language learners, which I believe I had maybe 4, all of the special ed students, which I had 8, and then the rest of the students were GT. And the experiment that this teacher had wanted to do, who, by the way, was a very experienced teacher, was to see if working in all small groups would be doable. Nobody told me that. And I don't even think I had the experience to be able to really pull that off, even if they had told me. So I muddled through the year. I did not write one lesson plan, not one at all. I didn't even, if I really remember right, I think I was so overwhelmed, but I didn't even go in and look at those textbook notes, teacher's edition script, prior to actually delivering it. The kids had workbooks to go with their textbooks, so I didn't have to do any copying or preparing any papers, and I just assumed they would get everything they need from this. So you can see I made several mistakes, rookie mistakes. Nothing I'm beating myself up about. However, had someone told me, plan, and plan again, I know that I would have had a more successful first year. And I mean by that, I didn't ruin children. Children learned, but Every single day, my new principal came in and gave me notes on what I was doing not so well. I don't even think I got a positive note until sometime in February, where I started to go, okay, girl, you got to get your life together here. We got to figure this out. So when I say failing to plan is planning to fail, I was basically doing that my first year. Now, I remedied it by over planning my second year, but that's a story for another day. However, I can tell you this. No matter what you're doing, y'all, you have to prepare. You have to plan. You have to plan a second time, because it's like your rehearsal, right? Number one, you never know when someone's going to come into your room. And that's a little bit nerve-wracking, even for the most veteran teachers. And so you want to be sure that you're well prepared. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing when somebody is in there, maybe formally or informally, because people talk, right? Also, more importantly, you want to be able to handle anything that comes your way. So let's just say, for example, you're teaching a lesson that's maybe a little bit more difficult, division of fourth grade. We know that that's a difficult skill for fourth graders. What if then, because it's so difficult, some kids start to get off task and they start to have discipline problems? Well, what's going to happen with the rest of your kids if you don't even know what's going on in the lesson, but you have to step away to take care of these little children that are being challenging that day? They're going to be sitting and not doing anything. And then that's going to breed more problems, because what happens when we just sit? We get bored, we start talking, we start doing things, and then before you know it, we have chaos. And then the most important thing, you guys, I've seen where teachers have been using scripted plans before. I've been doing this a long time, I promise you. I've even had to be a teacher where it was mandated, it was required that we use a math program that was very specific. Saying that, when you're sitting there reading a script and you haven't gone over it or prepared yourself or know what's kind of going on with it, not only can you not support your students with their various needs in the classroom, which is going to cause them not to learn, but you don't even know if they're paying attention, because where are your eyes and your focus? It's on that material. It has nothing to do with what's happening, the dynamic of what's going on in the room. Now, I say all that to say, you don't have to spend 10, 12, 14 hours a week planning. But guys, you really got to have it together. Sometimes I think we believe, oh, they're just children, they'll never know. Or, oh, I'm an adult. I've got a college degree. I can handle this. I know how to do third grade reading. Okay, yes, but without that preparation time, without that plan time, and without really thinking this through, you might be able to read at the third grade level, but can you really execute teaching the skills that students need at the third grade level without that preparing, that planning, and making sure that you're rehearsed and ready to go? So what are our takeaways today? The most important thing, you guys, is that you have to be prepared when you step in front of kids in that classroom. And the best way to do that is sit down and do some planning. You may not know how to plan, especially in your early years, because planning takes a little bit of knowledge and skill. But work with your colleagues. Talk to your mentors. Talk to your partner. Talk to your teammates. Talk to your coaches. People have these things now on these campuses. We didn't have that way back in the day. Take advantage of the free resources that you have so that you can sit down and say, okay, I got this. I may not know this script. And I say that because so many people are going to these scripted lessons these days. It's kind of this pendulum shift. I may not be able to memorize this script and say it word for word, but I kind of know what's going on. And I kind of know where my kids are going to start to struggle. And I have some ideas on how I can fix that. And I know that my kids aren't going to need this part of this lesson because they've already learned that. So I can do X, Y, and Z. Failing to plan is definitely planning to fail. I can speak to that because I've been there. I've done it. I will say, however, I learned my lesson. And that's what failure is all about, right? Learning the lessons. Let me help you avoid that failure by sharing this information with you today and really emphasizing the fact that you need to be prepared to be ready to teach in that classroom, no matter if you're scripted or not, no matter if you think you have the knowledge and skill or not. Go back in and really make sure that you are ready to teach, no matter who's in your classroom, no matter who's watching, and so that you can get your kids where they need to go, because nothing feels more exciting, more thrilling, and more rewarding than when you see that light bulb go off on a child's mind, little head, their face. You see it. There's a visible sign, and you know that you had all the contributing factors to having that happen. All right, those are our lessons for this week. I hope you have a great week. Some of you are back. Some of you are about to be back, getting started back. So I hope this is the best school year ever. And if you need anything, make sure you reach out. And more importantly, if you know a new teacher in their first, second, or brand new year, I've got supports for them. And here's the thing, y'all, they may not know yet that they're going to struggle, but they're going to struggle. It's not because of them. It's not because they don't want to. It's not because they can't. It's just because, like me, they just have so many things that they don't know yet. Let me help them get on their path to success. All right. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.